Hey guys, today I'm going to show you a quick tutorial on how to make a guiding behavior for the animal controller. In this case, we are going to recreate the Zelda dog's behavior that he will show you the way to a treasure. For example, if I get close to the wolf, as you can see, he will wait on a waypoint, and when I get near, he will travel to the next waypoint until he arrives to the final waypoint, and there he will dig up a treasure for me. Great. Now let's find out how we can do this. So let's use a simple scene. I have already set up a scene here with the navigation mesh baked and some waypoints. As you can see, each waypoint is connected to each other with the next waypoint. So waypoint 1 will go to waypoint 2, waypoint 2 to waypoint 3, and so on until we reach the final waypoint, which is this one right here. So let me find the wolf light AI, drag it here, and as the player we're going to use Steve, the human, this one right here. Let's see. Okay, the camera is following the wolf, and that is because the wolf has on his camera target this Unity event racer connected with the camera target. So let's disable this, and for Steve should we do the same, but here in actions, camera target, he has the camera set to him. So now we're following Steve instead of the wolf. Okay, let's create a transform hook for Steve, and let's save this transform into scriptable variable. Let's create a folder, tutorial assets, and this will be the player transform. Let's call it like this, player transform, and the reference will be the root of the game object. So transform hook works as a reference for the transform at runtime. So if we hit play, you will see that this scriptable variable will save Steve as a transform, so we can use it anywhere. And when we exit play mode, this transform will be clean, since scriptable assets cannot use scene objects like game objects or transforms in his values. So now that we have Steve as our player, let's start creating the AI states for the wolf. So let's enable the brain on the wolf. We are not going to use the default state, we're going to create a new state. And we're going to call this one wait for player. Now we have a new state, and let's add some task. First, we need to add the task, and let's make the wolf sit and wait for the player. So let's do a play mode task. Now we call it sit, and we're going to use the mode action and the ability ID 8, which is the ID for the sit animation. Sit, it's 8. Great. And you can find all the modes that the animal can do here on his animator. So we go to actions. Here are all the mode actions that this animal can do. And if we go to sit, you will find that we have the 8 ID. Great. Let's also do a stop action. So the animal will stop while he's waiting for the player. And we're going to choose stop agent. Now, if the player gets closer To the wolf, he will go to the next waypoint, which should be the first waypoint. So let's add a decision. Let's add a loop decision and call it is player near. Now, we are not going to use a cone for the vision. We're going to look at 360 angle, and we're going to set a radius of 4, for example. Very close. And instead of looking for the animal player, which we can do here, since Steve will be the animal player, let's disable, we're going to use for a transform variable, which will be the player. So we're going to look for a transform bar, and we're going to use the player. We're not going to assign that as a target, and we're not going to move it as to the target. We're going to move it to a different target, which will be this one. Okay? And if this succeed, then we're going to move to the next location. I created a new AI state. Let's call it the second AI state. Move to the next location. And in this new AI state, we're going to move. Let's create a new move stop task. Move next waypoint. And we're going to move to the next target. We are not going to look at the target. That means if we arrive here, the wolf will look directly at the target. And since it's not a zone like a sleep zone or something like that that we can interact with, let's disable that too. Now, the wolf, as you can see here in the AI component, he does not have any target to go to. So if we set the waypoint as the target, he will automatically go to the first location, and we don't want to do that. We want to go to the next location when the player is close to the animal. So instead of doing that, let's create a new event riser, and we're going to add the next waypoint instead of the current target, the next target instead of the current target. We're going to use AI as the listener, and we're going to go to animal AI control, transform next target, and we're going to choose as the next target the waypoint 1. If we hit play, you will see the wolf is sitting, and if we approach to him, it will go to the next target. Now, this is happening because we need to stop him when he arrives to that target, and also we want to sit him instantly. So let's remove the cooldown, and it will play it once. We wait for the player, and if the player is near, we move to the next location. Now, if we arrive to the next location, arrive decision has arrived, then what we're going to do, we're going to wait for the player. And if we wait for the player, we stop moving. So let's try it again. We play. Actually, let me change the wolf position so he's in front of us. I go to him. Yeah, he's set. If I come near him again, he will go to the next waypoint, and so on. Now we have the hard part made. Let's polish this a little bit. Now, while we wait for the player, we also want to do a quick align. And for this quick align, we need a transform bar, which will be the player 1. This will make the wolf rotate towards the player and look at it. So if we hit play, you will see the wolf, it will be looking at the player. And if I approach him, he sits and he turns. That is so much better. Now to the final part. Once we arrive to the final waypoint, we need to dig up our treasure. So I have here a simple game object with a cube inside that is disabled. So once we arrive to this destination, we're going to enable this game object. So we're going to create a final AI state. Let's do right click, create Malbers animations, pluggable AI state. Step 3, arrived to final destination. And for this one, we need to find out when the wolf arrived to the final destination. So we need to create a new decision here. So let's create an arrive decision, arrive to final destination. And in this case, we're going to search for a name, which will be waypoint final. Arrive to final destination. We're going to use this name. And if we arrive to this waypoint, then we're going to move to this AI state. So let's going to arrive to final destination. True. Let's put it first. So we can always check if we have arrived to the final destination first. Now for the task of this AI state, we're going to use a play mode task, which will be dig, and we're going to use the action mode and the ability. Let's search for it, dig, which will be 10. Ability 10, we're going to do it this mode on ourselves, and we're going to play it once, and we're going to play it instantly. Again, if you want to check what are the animations, what are the mode that this animal can do, in this case the wolf, going to the modes layer on the animator, go to actions, and here they are. We're going to go to dig. As you can see, it's 10. You can also find it here on the modes, action, dig, 10. Okay. Now we also need to stop, so we can use the stop task that we used, and we need to dig out the treasure. So let's create a new task, and let's call it event task, invoke event task here, show treasure. Now this is a simple Unity event that we can raise or invoke. So let's create a new event here on scriptables event, show treasure, let's call it. And now in this case is an event, show treasure chest, for example. And this treasure chest, which is the cube in this game object, let's add an event listener, and we're going to use that show treasure trash, sorry, is treasure, show treasure event. So in the treasure, we're going to use the event, and we're going to use the empty void. So when this event is invoked, we're going to enable this cube game object, set active to true. Okay, now let's review everything again. First, we are waiting for the player. We're going to quick align it to the player transform. We're going to use the seat animation, and we're going to stop. And if the player is near, we're going to move to the next location. Now, in the next move to the next location AI state, we're going to use the task move to the next target that every waypoint has. These are the next targets here. And if we have arrived to the target, we're going to back to the wait for the player. But if we arrive to the final target, we're going to go to the arrive to final destination. We're going to play the dig animation. We're going to stop the animal and we're going to show the treasure. And here we're going to invoke the show treasure chest event with the void invoke, which will be used here on the event listener with the void event. And when it's invoked, we're going to show the cube. So let's test this one. Push the wolf go to the next location, as you can see here, and so on. He will sit and wait for me. That's it. Everything is great. He arrived to the final destination and he dug up the treasure. And you can do whatever you want with it. So that's it. That is how you can make a guiding behavior for the AI animal. Try it out and I'll see you next time.